Did he pause it and just run away?
Yeah, probably.
All right.
I hope some study doesn't come out about the harmful effects of Vapor Rub.
It's menthol. What's harmful about it?
Okay, here's my thing about the Beatles.
They suck.
No, I like the Beatles.
You like Paul Ryan?
He's my favorite Beatle.
No.
I feel like you're not like allowed to just enjoy the Beatles.
Look at all the people.
This is the classiest our podcast has ever been. I need some wine.
Getting started.
Welcome back to the marathon. Oh.
Hello.
This is really just like the second half of... You do 2 short albums and it's just kind of... it's like just doing one.
It makes it look like we're doing something productive.
Yes. Forget all that. Welcome to episode 24. This is a totally separate episode that I'm not just... We're not just double dipping.
Yeah.
We're finally doing the Beatles.
Wait, I thought the last one was 24.
We're going to go balls deep on the Beatles.
No, that last one was 23. Wait, no, last one was 24.
You said it was 24.
Damn it. I don't know.
Okay, we're starting over and...
Last one was 24.
And
this one's 25. Our podcast is legal to rent a car, I guess.
It's a big anniversary episode, so we're doing the Beatles.
Happy anniversary.
Finally doing the Beatles.
I'm going to do the Beatles. They're just going to watch.
Finally doing the Beatles. Revolver.
Paul's dead.
Paul is dead.
Isn't that ironic? Because he's like the only one left alive.
Ringo. Will forever. Ringo will never die.
Ringo is a cockroach. He's going to live.
He is the human cockroach. Love you, Ringo. Please die.
Ringo was my mother's favorite.
Of course he was.
I imagine he still is her favorite.
You have to pay your dues if you want to sing the blues. Anyway. Yes. Revolver.
I bought a car.
I'm just going to keep this brief because I don't want to... I could talk about the Beatles for days and days. So let's just start.
And he will. Don't worry.
Where should I begin? It's their best
album. They always
album.
come up with great names for their albums.
It's their best title and album cover combination. For me, it's like... It's always been a very... There's some songs in there that are super ahead of their time. And there's some songs in there that sound like just, early Beatles. Mm-hmm. So...
Yeah, George Martin... This is when he really cuts loose.
Yeah. So it feels like a weird kind of purgatory album of them drifting back and forth between kind of what they started off doing and then where they were going in the future. And so this is a good one.
Yeah, before he did the Game of Thrones, Chris.
Unless anyone else has anything, that's it. Well, that was not English.
The Beatles are awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's going to dispute that. So
you have nothing to say.
Let's see if there's just...
I enjoy the Beatles. I am not a rabid fan.
Taxman.
I saved my rabidity for Ani DeFranco. I think we all know that. I don't know albums one over the other. I don't know. But I'm sure I'm going to know all the songs.
This was George's...
When did they write the Batman song?
I don't know how George convinced the rest of the band to get the lead song on an album, but the story behind this one is...
Because he was a bitchy little queen?
The story behind this one was, by this point, they were actually starting to make money and were getting into these schemes of how to hide their money offshore. Because they were, like, in Britain...
So they were actually having trouble with the tax man?
like in Great Britain, especially at that time, like, if you were making above, like, poverty level, you got taxed out the wazoo. So they were looking for ways to avoid paying taxes. And then
offshore accounts were a big thing.
So
nothing like today.
so the song's a combination of their actual tax troubles, the Adam West Batman thing, which was popular at this time. So it's kind of a parody song, really.
So that's not a coincidence. And
yeah.
See, I'm just learning
what I always loved about George is that he was kind of the peace and love Beatle. He was the one who drugged them to India to do the meditation and stuff. But he also wrote a few of the most scathing Beatles songs, like Piggies, where he's just tearing cops a new asshole, and then Taxman, where I mean, maybe that's why he needed to meditate, because he had, like, deep-seated anger issues.
Sounds like they had a lot of anger issues all across the board.
Well, John, Ringo just drank to excess. I don't think he was angry. He was probably not angry because he drank to excess. So really it was just Paul McCartney. He's the only infallible human being that's ever lived.
I heard that he was a big problem, but that's all right.
If you're going to talk about like the dissolving of the Beatles, I think it was because the rest of them were pissed off and Paul McCartney wasn't. It's like, hey everybody, you want to actually do something? And they're like, yeah, here's Eleanor Rigby.
Peace.
Yeah, I like this song.
Wow, this is a
look at all the people.
This is the classiest our podcast has ever been. I need some wine.
It's because I'm drinking beer instead of wine.
Out of a big-ass
fancy
stein.
glass.
Is that a stein?
This is an Erdinger stein, out of which I am drinking Erdinger beer. Thank you to our recent sponsor, Erdinger. Not giving us any money, but we did buy their beer, and it's delicious.
Got a discount.
Do they all come?
Check out that Dunkel.
So, like,
I like your Dunkel.
Dunkel is hot.
So, like, this is an example of the duophonic thing where it starts off where you hear Paul McCartney.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
he's
now he's singing in like the right channel. So nobody ever does this anymore. It's more hassle than it's worth.
He's whispering in your ear.
But I really love when stuff shifts in the stereo mix.
Right.
Like nobody does that anymore.
I have something on this.
Yeah.
It has to do with Audie.
I'm not going to try to remember which song or which album, but there's a song she had in like 10 years ago that somebody had to point out to me what was happening. If you switch your car radio to only play on the left side, you heard one set of lyrics, and harmonizing along with that, and the same rhythm and everything, a slightly different lyric was playing on the left. And it was weird because you could hear them both, you were understanding them both simultaneously and not realizing that you were just, like I would sing along, and one time I'd say one lyric and one another, and I didn't realize I was even doing that.
Wow.
So this song was like part one to John Lennon's from the White Album, I'm So Tired. His I Just Want to Go to Sleep two-parter. What does he say? He says, F you, Sir Walter Raleigh.
Sounds
fucker.
like very harsh language for the Beatles.
Meow, meow, meow,
You do feel like it's a half a step.
Backwards guitar. It's getting
You do
freaky.
feel like it's kind of a half step off of Help, I think. Like, I feel like we've taken a...
Junior drug use.
They are definitely playing with tracks.
Yeah.
They are definitely, like, tracking and recording things and figuring out how to make things layer and stuff. Because they didn't have all these great things to do it with back then.
Outside of, she said, I want to tell you, gotta get you into my life, and tomorrow never knows. It's pretty much the basic Beatles formula. You just have little sprinkles here of them being like, remember when we did Acid?
I just remember that George Martin talking about how he was starting to get ideas, like they bring, because the Beatles could afford to have all this awesome equipment and stuff, and he'd be like, well then let's use it. And I think this was the first album where he's like, let's play around with this and figure out what we can do.
We can afford to spend some extra time here.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love this album, but I also love percussion, and I think Ringo is still fairly missing from this, where they didn't want to give a lot of like space on the record to mixing Ringo into it, because when like the drums take up a lot of low end, and even like Paul's bass playing, they didn't really start putting him in the mix until about the same time as Ringo. Before that, you had to like be very careful because
they're just starting to get that.
Oh, this was.
I don't care how do I have to play this live. Like they're just starting to think. I don't give a shit anymore. I want this to sound good. They're not thinking about it anymore. I don't give a shit how I have to play this live. I want it to sound really good on the album. And we were just talking about how there are albums I like for different reasons. And then when I get to different places in my life, I like different Beatles albums. I like different, even Rolling Stones albums. I'll like one more than another at a different point. Or The Who. I'll like one song better than another.
Yeah.
Point. That's how you know what a good band is. Where you can just like, oh, that's not my favorite one right now. I think that's a good way to gauge if somebody's really good to you. Like
here's here, there, and everywhere. Live a better life. But I don't think Sgt. Pepper's really would have existed if George hadn't gotten into the Indian thing. because one of the major things that makes Sgt. Pepper's great is there's a drone throughout of it. There's like this sparkly kind of acid drenched drone to it, and I think he was the one who brought that into the group, because this is what Paul McCartney wants to do.
He liked to jump out there and just like, let's do this and throw some on the wall, see if it sticks, maybe.
Huffing the vapor.
And it's just like, John Lennon, silly isn't quite the word, absurd. You know, he jumps to crazy places. And Paul McCartney is just like silly little love songs.
Yeah, no. this is the heart of who Paul McCartney is. Paul McCartney loves schmaltz, and that's okay. This is a great song.
He had the songwriting. I think he actually had songwriting better than anybody else in the band. Like
basic melodic
his songs
sense.
Will pull you in nothing, right? I mean, he's the one that pulls you in. I love they make sea shanty ditty.
Submarine.
That's how you know you're good, when you can just make your own little sea shanty ditty. You know what I like? Those old...
Oh, there's ocean sounds.
Yeah. How about that?
Submarine. We all live in a yellow submarine. Ha ha! The great mystery question of why did the Beatles not do their own voices in the Yellow Submarine movie?
Because they didn't have to.
Anyway.
I'm not going to sit in a studio and do that. I think, can I just say what I think you're saying, and then you can tell me where I'm wrong? This album has these neat little flashes of the future of the Beatles. Like, there are things you see the directions they're going in. You see this is where the tree starts forking.
Yes.
It's forking.
But I just don't...
It's a big...
No, because I still think here they were still missing Ringo largely.
You're getting percussion from the guitar on this.
Right, because like from Sgt. Pepper onwards...
An acoustic one at that.
Right, like early on in the Beatles, they were still kind of a rock band. So you had Ringo early on, and then he kind of started to disappear up until Sgt. Pepper's.
Right.
So, like, once they actually like started reincorporating him back into the band, it was like, yeah, when you got like it was filling in that one missing layer where they really got great. This is a great album, but there's still that missing dimension of, come on, let Ringo like work around the toms a bit. That's what he's good at.
I like how everything's always going down in this song.
Because the only thing he does on this album is Tomorrow Never Knows. I think that's it.
I feel like I've heard outtakes of Yellow Submarine where it's not like that at all.
I can't wait till we get to that.
It's like they're constantly walking down the steps.
All right, here's She Said. Ooh. Like, I love this song. I wish the Beatles had done more of this kind of, like, the cliche 60s... drenched in acid.
Right, for the listeners, I don't think you've really been telling all the names of the songs, although Yellow Submarine was probably pretty self-explanatory.
Oh, but back to
what's this one called?
She Said.
Okay.
The general rule of thumb is whoever's singing it wrote it, so I think this is John. You can kind of hear Ringo way out on the left. They're like, we're putting your drums out in the corner. That's nice. Right. Have fun, Ringo. I would love to hear a remix where you can actually hear where Ringo's drums are actually somewhere kind of either center or spread out in the mix.
Yeah, he's in there. He's playing.
He's way under there, though.
What were we talking about before? Because I had a thing to say. Oh.
Well, also they were getting pretty full of themselves and probably going, hey, I need my voice up front.
Oh yeah, like all the Beatles books I've read, they were always arguing about that. I think every band does that, fighting over the mix. Yeah, Good Day Sunshine.
It's just like, is really the tempo of the piano here? I never even noticed that before. Yeah,
I know, because all you can hear is this snare just kind of going way out to the side.
Why is Ringo even here? He's playing quite well if you try to single him out. He's playing just fine.
I would have to turn that up so loud to hear that.
So it's just trust me, it's there.
So like I said, a lot of these are precursors. So this was kind of a precursor to Good Morning, Good Morning, Good Morning.
Well, look, they put one of his hi-hats or whatever over here. What's that called? The big cymbal That one was over in my right ear this time.
Yeah, I can hear like a little, like half an inch of hi-hat.
I heard a cymbal over here. I
hear people clapping more than I hear the drums.
That's just weird. It's like half of his drum set is mixed over here, and you can hear crash.
Makes you wonder who was doing that, right? Like it was even on the original drum recording. Like this was added later because of George Martin. Like how we like to layer things.
Yeah, I know. A lot of it was like the multi-track technology of the time, so you couldn't spare a lot of.
What were they up to? 4 tracks now? 8 tracks?
You couldn't spare a lot of room for drums, I guess. But and your bird can sing. You think you got everything, and your bird can sing. But you ain't got me, bitch.
It's interesting to me that this follows Good Day Sunshine.
It's a really good follow-up. Like,
probably another argument over that.
I know we talk about it all the time, but how one song can inform another. How like track listing is important.
This is a pairing, for sure.
Really good pairing.
What's really funny. Do you notice whenever you're listening to the Beatles, sometimes another song that came out much later will jump into your head like, oh, that's where that came from. Do you ever hear that? And just, like, not like a ripoff, just like, oh, they liked that part, didn't they? You know?
Ooh.
Somebody got stoned and liked that a lot. Brought to you by not Sam Adams. Sam Adams can kiss my ass. Can I tell you a story while we're waiting for this to start playing? Sam Adams offered me a $10 rebate. I filled it out and sent it in. They sent me a letter. They spent the money and the time to send me a letter back saying that they were not going to give me a $10 rebate. Fast forward a year later. I did it again. They had the same thing. I fill out the form, I send it in, and they send me back a letter again. They spent the money to print out a letter and send it back to me instead of just giving me the $10 for whatever stupid reason. I know. Sam Adams is like the worst, man.
Then that is why our podcast is not sponsored, by Erdinger.
Sponsored, not sponsored by Erdinger.
It's That's delicious. Right.
I said, screw Sam Adams, I'm drinking vodka.
And you know what? They honor their rebate promises. And Sam Adams can suck it.
That's right.
Why did it stop playing? That's weird. Did he pause it and just run away?
Yeah, probably.
All right.
I hope some study doesn't come out about the harmful effects of Vapor Rub.
It's menthol. What's harmful about it?
Okay, here's my thing about the Beatles.
They suck.
No, I like the Beatles. I feel like if you're a Beatles if you're like a true fan, you have like a favorite Beatle. You like I want to be Paul McCartney or I want to be John Lennon and blah blah blah. Like
George Michael.
You have to have a preference. And my thing is I enjoy all the Beatles stuff.
But none of them were gay, so
and I never really wanted to have sex with any of the Beatles.
Well, that's good. They were like your grandparents' age.
So I didn't really have that, drawing me in.
Well, if you're alive at the time, you might have been into.
Hold on. Let her finish her
Brian Epstein.
Weird thought.
I'm just saying, like, you're supposed to pick a favorite, or like, John. You like the way John writes.
Is a very, very, very fine
the way
house.
that Paul writes, or if you love Ringo, whatever. But I don't know. I can't hardly tell the difference between the two of them. One album to the other, they all changed directions over time because there's so many albums. They had so many opportunities to like pick a direction that they cross over a lot. So like there's not to my mind, there's not like a John Lennon track. Like here's the progression of John Lennon's like writing style and singing style and like what he wrote over the course of the frickin' 30 years that they did whatever they did. And then there's a separate progression for Paul, whatever. Okay. I don't see it. And I can't follow it.
But you don't listen to this song and just start singing, our house is a very, very, very fine house.
With 2 cats in the yard.
I don't find any of it objectionable. So I like all of it.
Here's Dr. Robert, who's the guy who gave them acid for the first time.
I feel like you're supposed to have like preferences, one album over another, and one song over the other. I don't know what you're talking about.
My favorite Beatle is
it's all
Paul
very
Ryan.
pleasant.
You're the odd man out.
I know.
You like Paul Ryan?
He's my favorite Beatle.
No.
I feel like you're not like allowed to just enjoy the Beatles along with a bunch of other things. I'm supposed to have like really strong feelings about it, and I don't. I just enjoy them.
You know what?
See, I've upset Brett.
Isn't music great? How you can just do that? You can just listen to something.
Yeah.
And either like it or not.
There's all this pressure. I feel like I'm supposed to pick something.
No.
I don't know the difference between this and...
That's what I was just talking about a few minutes ago. Well, I thought I had to pick favorites, and then I keep changing my mind. As time goes by, I just go, no, I like this one better now.
I also like Mr. Postman.
I think I figured it out.
It's good running song.
I have a song 11 curse, regardless of how good it is. When we hit the 11th song, I just...
You tune out and check out?
My attention span...
Jesus, I have ADD and I can hold it together for an entire album. What the Seriously?
I'm saying it's weird.
It's weird.
Because regardless of how long the previous 10 songs are...
I can hold it together for 30 minutes.
No, it doesn't even matter. They could all be 1 minute or 10 minutes, but once I get to the 11th song, I just start to drift off. I've noticed that.
Well, see, I was trying to help with that with my ramblings on...
Maybe they completely expect you to do that. What's coming up next? Nope, I gotta tell you. There's some good songs coming up, so you need to get your together.
Okay, so to finish my thought, basically what I'm in a roundabout way.
You weren't finished?
I'm going the long way around. You guys weren't saying anything anyway. I'm going the long way around to tell you that I find the Beatles very intimidating because of this. I don't want to dive in and have too many opinions about it because I'm just going to get smacked down by like all the people.
Why?
They don't have that much music. It's not like you can't figure it out.
There's only 2 people ever going to listen to this.
Have you looked at how much Beatles is even on my laptop? There's got to be 1,000 songs.
Well, yeah, they recorded like 800 songs, but
it's overwhelming.
No,
this is from a woman who owns 23 Ani DeFranco albums. It's overwhelming.
It's not overwhelming. You're just not breaking it down to what you really need to worry about. That's all.
No, honestly, they don't have that much more than the average band. They were only around for like 8-9 years.
I just have a lot of outtakes and live versions of stuff like the anthologies and things like that. It looks like there's more there than there really is.
Look at this. This is amazing. Songs over 3 minutes. There's 1, 2... There's 3 songs on this album over 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the reasons why the Beatles are great for running.
239, nice 207, 225, 239, 236, 209, 222.
They get in, they say what they gotta say, and they get out. But you know where that comes from. I found out from Jack White of all people. Because the first recording equipment could only record 3 minutes at a time. So your song always had to come in under 3 minutes or the end of your song was gonna get cut off.
Nice.
The best equipment in the world ran out of recording time at 3 minutes. That's what that whole thing I was telling you about, that documentary where he wrote a song with Elton John and Elton John says, I don't write lyrics, so Bernie's going to send me some lyrics and then we'll do that song. And Jack White was just like, well, that's cool and different. I'll try that. and Bernie Taupin sent him some lyrics, and he's like, this is what we're going to work with. And Jack's like, well, I like rules. All right. How are we going to do this?
Give me some structure. We'll make it happen.
It was really neat. It was my favorite part, where Elton John just goes, I don't write the song.
I delegate that.
I do the music.
Just not
he
my
sends
job.
me the lyrics. I do the... And then he showed him 6 different ways where they could do the song.
Right. Got to get you into my life.
Anyway.
Here's another
That's
Paul
a good one.
I remember when Paul McCartney did that thing with the Foo Fighters with Dave Grohl.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I took a ride, meow, don't know the words, any Beatles song.
But he doesn't really write lyrics. There's another kind of life there.
See, there's the range of frequencies in music, and they were still kind of anemic a bit with Rubber Soul and Revolver. But the one thing you can never fault them on is impeccable melody.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the song isn't totally fleshed out in the percussive arena, you can never ever fault them on melodic perfection. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
I remember this song being awesome when I was a little kid, like in the 70s, and driving out to the beach to go hang out at the beach, and this was playing. I thought it was a new song. I was like, it fit right in with all the songs that they were playing on the WLS on the way to the beach.
This arrangement is so anemic. This is a totally rockin' song.
Well, I guess if you press the earphones really far into your head...
Right. It's very sparse.
I can hear this as a punk song easily. Like, I want to hear a different arrangement of this. Big time.
I can hear Ringo in the back of the studio hitting the kick.
It's funny that you say that. I remember
hitting the kick drum
having
and the
a memory
tambourine.
of this song being more like what you're talking about than it really is.
Maybe I've heard a version of it like that. Maybe I've heard somebody cover it. I want to hear this as like a complete insane rocking, screaming.
I didn't know what I can find there.
Ow! That's what I want to hear.
Yep.
I want to hear Courtney Love do this song. That's what I want.
This is the piece de resistance. Tomorrow Never Knows is light years beyond every song on this album.
Okay.
And I use the word album just...
Okay.
Yeah.
If you say so.
This was the start of Sgt. Pepper's.
I've got this turned up as far as I can make it.
No, there's bass and there's drums.
It's all background still,
when you think of like Beatles songs that predicted the future, this, Helter Skelter, like a day in the life. I don't think anyone's even still kind of touched that song. It's really cool in George Martin's book, him talking about them doing this, where he said they were all like, they were using these samples. They were all kind of like live playing the mixing board, like bringing sounds in and out. So if this song was not on the album, I think just this song fools people into thinking it's so futuristic, where I think people are like, it's almost like the Beatles were trolling their own album. Yeah, right. You thought that was good? You. Enjoy this, motherfucker.
The throwaway ending song?
It's almost the sense you get of like, we weren't even trying.
So, you want to hear something really f***ed up.
Yeah, I spent 2 weeks on the last 13 tracks and 2 weeks on this.
Yeah.
Probably. All right, we're going to go into final thoughts. My opinion is it hasn't really changed.
I really like the album, of course. I mean, if I was going to be a critical of it as a Beatles album, it's not my favorite album.
Did I miss a song that was called Revolver?
No, they just called it Revolver.
Sometimes artists just do things that sounds good.
Okay.
I don't remember why.
Sometimes you guys know the answers to questions like that.
Well, there was the original album cover where they had like these toy like baby dolls with like the arms broken off, and they're all wearing like the butcher's like white gown
Meet
thing.
the Beatles?
Yeah. Like thank God somebody told them not to do that. That was one of the tackiest things they'd ever done. So sometimes you just need somebody to tell you, this is tacky and stupid, so please don't do that, and let somebody make you a cover art.
By the way, if anybody famous ever hears this, Chris and I always talk about how like celebrities always need one person that's allowed to tell you no. Like, oh my God, that's a terrible idea, don't wear that, or don't do that, or whatever. There's always one person you have to trust their opinion.
Whoever you are,
Lance Bass,
whoever did the cover art for Revolver, genius.
Well, now I've forgotten who we were talking to in the last
Good night, folks.
episode.
What was the first podcast?
Oh,
well, I mean, it's a 10 out of 10, obviously. It's the Beatles.
Goes.
It's a 10 out of 10s.
I'm going to do the Beatles. They're just going to watch. And Sam Adams can suck it.
That's right. Lance Bass, 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 Lance Bass.